Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, furnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View. Alright, this is Jessie. I am so happy to be back with you guys. How y'all doing tonight? The final debate. It's over. Yeah, it's over. You know what that means? I don't have to cover any more of them. Woot! No more politics. Well, very, very little. I admit There may be a few minor political things I'll mention here and there. But I don't have to do it for hours on end. I'm so happy. All right. I have a station announcement. I usually come up with these things. Come on, guys. You know I'm all over the place. You know I'm always looking out for you. Now, anyway, I want to announce that Dr. Judy L. Moore, our very own PhD in astronomy, is hosting. I'm producing, but she's doing the big hosting part of a Star Wars, Star Trek, Stargate special, December 17th. Oh yeah, and it's live, and we're going to take callers. So, it's at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, December 17th. It's 4 to 6 p.m. I will get you all the details about how to call in just a little bit. We've got to work out a few technical bugs, but I promise you'll get them in plenty of time. Yeah, Mr. Frog's trying to make a reappearance. I told him to go away. He just won't listen. All right. You know, I've always got a lot of news for you guys. And as has become since the start of the battle in Mosul, I have some battle updates. Now, keep in mind, I'm not on the ground. There are reporters embedded with these troops. And I thank them for their commitment. Because without them, we may not get all the good coverage we get. So, I'm just searching one more website. Alright, I've got an audio clip pulled up. Why don't we take a quick listen to our first audio clip?
Iraqi and Kurdish forces today launched their biggest push toward Mosul. The main offensive was from the east into the town of Bartella, just over 10 miles from the city. We climbed into one of the Iraqi Special Forces' old American Humvees. It's battle-worn, shot up, and the driver said damaged by an ISIS suicide bomber today. Then it was on foot, quickly, because rounds whizzed by.
This predominantly Christian village is one of ISIS's main defensive positions leading toward Mosul, and they're fighting hard to keep it.
ISIS sending out car bombs. But Iraqi troops are advancing faster than U.S. commanders anticipated. We'll be in Mosul in 2 days, a soldier boasted. But ISIS has had 2 years to prepare for this fight. The soldiers showed us a tunnel they had just found.
This was a ISIS escape route, also seems to be like one of their positions.
ISIS fighters lived here, safe from U.S. warplanes.
Just based on the number of mattresses we've seen, this could have held 20, maybe 50 people, more if they packed them in.
The tunnel extended for about a half a mile. At the far end, we came up into what appeared to have been an ISIS headquarters. Food still in the kitchen area. Half-made bombs, too. And chemicals for more. On the walls, ISIS's infamous logo. The sight of the black flag was once enough to send the Iraqi army running. That's how ISIS took Mosul. Now, it's ISIS on the run.
Tonight, Iraqi forces have taken Bartella, putting them within striking distance of Mosul.
All right, so they've taken Bartella, which, as the reporter said, was a Christian community. Now, I've got a story here. Got a couple quotes. Now, it has not been updated. I'll just give it to you. It says it was published 3 hours ago. It's Al Jazeera. Hey, come on. Who else am I going to look to for Middle East news? The biggest news outlet in the Middle East. Just so you guys know where it's coming from. Alright. The fourth day of the battle to retake Mosul. Alright, untie my tongue here. Fourth day of battle to retake ISIL stronghold sees entrance of Iraqi special forces and advance from the northeast. Iraqi forces launched a third front in the offensive to take back Mosul, but ISIL fighters put up stiff resistance, unleashing wave after wave of vehicle-borne suicide bombers, otherwise often commonly referred to as VBIEDs, VBIDs, while leaving a deadly trail of hidden explosive devices. Iraqi's government said on Thursday its soldiers advanced from the south and east, while Kurdish Peshmerga fighters from the north and the east. So, on the country's second largest city, now under the control of Daesh. Attack helicopters strafed Daesh positions as Iraqi special forces entered the town of Bartella, 15 kilometers east of Mosul's outskirts. Major General Fawadi Barwari said, "After we break them in Bartella, everywhere else they will crumble." He said Daesh had few defenses in the town, which was almost completely empty of civilians. They just left some snipers and suicide car bombs. Daesh fighters drove at least 9 suicide car and truck bombs against the advancing troops, 8 of which were destroyed before reaching their targets, while the 9th struck an armored Humvee. Lieutenant Colonel Muqtadar al-Shamiri told the Associated Press. The deadly defense offered a glimpse at what Iraqi forces can expect as they approach ISIL's biggest urban bastion. Now, as of 2100 GMT, Bartella remained in the hands of Daesh and the fighting continued. However, I have no idea what time it is GMT, but they have announced that Bartella has been freed. It's a very tough fight. Khan said they need to push through in order to open up a road that takes them 10 kilometers into Mosul via the highway. The battle is continuing, and they're getting very close towards Mosul. The U.S. military announced the first death since the operation began. The U.S. soldier died on Thursday from wounds sustained in a roadside bomb explosion in northern Iraq. The Army didn't specify where. I have also searched for the announcement, the public announcement. I suspect they're working on family notification, because this isn't the kind of thing you release until a family's been notified. And that was a 21-gun salute for our fallen hero. Alright. The closer you get to Mosul is where the civilians really are, and that's going to be a real challenge for both Kurdish and Iraqi security forces. The offensive is the largest operation launched by Iraqi forces since the 2003 U.S. invasion. Tens of thousands of troops are involved. While there are thought to be nearly 6,000 Daesh fighters in and around Mosul, it's expected to take weeks, if not months, before Mosul falls. Amr al-Jabr, a 30-year-old soldier with the Iraqi Special Forces, said he was happy to be taking part in the attack and hoped to avenge the killing of his 2 brothers while fighting. "I had one brother who became a martyr in 2007 and another who became a martyr in 2014. I want to avenge them, and I'm ready to die." ISIS captured Mosul during a lightning-quick advance across northern Iraq in 2014, and its leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi announced the formation of a self-styled caliphate from the pulpit of a Mosul mosque. Mosul is the largest city controlled by the armed group, and it's the last major urban center in Iraq. It is believed 1.5 million people, I'm going to repeat that, 1.5 million people have remained in the city, and the United Nations warned as many as 1 million people could flee in the coming days, creating a serious humanitarian crisis. Alright, got a couple more audio clips we're going to play.
Attack helicopters swoop overhead and fire. A truck bomb is detonated by forces on the ground. That's what's left of it, 25-year-old Corporal Mohammed Al-Yasir says, as we push forward. His Humvee has been hit so many times, he can barely see through the bulletproof glass. When we finish liberating Mosul, I'm going to ask for my sweetheart's hand in marriage, he tells us. Al-Yasir dreams of the future, but now has to focus on surviving the present. A bulldozer barricades side roads to defend against one of the biggest ongoing threats, suicide car bombers.
It's one of the ways that ISIS was mounting its weapons, firing at troops as they were coming down.
We're with the Counterterrorism Division's Special Forces. The men are tired. They have been fighting non-stop since ISIS swept through Iraq more than 2 years ago. But morale is high. They've reached the town of Bartella, just 20 kilometers from Mosul.
The forces have been pounding this area. This is the front line, and being this close to the fighting, one can't help but to think, but to wonder about the fate of the civilians who potentially might be trapped inside.
Thankfully, it seems there are none. The vast majority fled this peaceful Christian enclave 2 years ago. That's when we were last here, just after ISIS captured Mosul, when Yusuf and his friend tried to pretend that everything was normal, when 22-year-old Mariana swore that she would stay even if she was the only one left, and when Father Ben Hamlalu's church was a tranquil sanctuary. This shattered community, this shattered country has already suffered so much. Staff Sergeant Dargham doesn't tell his wife and 4 children he's at the front. He does not call them to say goodbye before heading into the fight. What would you tell your wife and children if you could call them now? I ask. God willing, I will return home when we have liberated all of Iraq's lands, he responds. But liberating the land is only the first part of the battle.
All right. As she said, liberating the land is only the first part of the battle. My concern, and concern of many, although not often discussed, who's going to take over control of Mosul once Daesh is no longer in control? Who's going to take over? Are we going to get the leadership that was there back, or are they dead? Did they flee? Do the citizens still want that leadership? Do the citizens want new leadership? And are the citizens going to be trading one occupation for another? With all the religious and ethnic divides in the Middle East, these are all very important questions. All right. I've got another couple of articles here. The clashes have come with sweeping gains. The coalition has now recaptured at least 100 square kilometers of territory. Iraq Major General Aman al-Sadi said 200 ISIS fighters were killed as Iraqi forces took the Christian town of Bartella from ISIS militants. And that's the latest territorial win for a coalition of around 100,000 people quickly closing in on Mosul. The Iraqi-led coalition launched the operation on Monday to retake Mosul as seen as the cultural capital of ISIS's invidious caliphate, or so-called Islamic State. Latest developments. A U.S. service member was killed Thursday in northern Iraq. U.S. military aid, the Pentagon, didn't say whether the service member was taking part in the Mosul offensive. Saudi acknowledged pockets of resistance in Bartella, saying they would be cleared before nightfall Thursday. Dozens of Yazidi women enslaved by ISIS in Iraq have been transferred to Raqqa, Syria. And this is according to a UK-based monitor. Iraqi military officials say armored military vehicles are now stationed some 4 miles from the city. The operation is going faster than expected, according to Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi, as Peshmerga fighters open a new front from the north, liberating several villages from ISIS control some 20 kilometers from Mosul. So far, this is the most intense fighting that the soldiers have seen since the United States pulled out. This is a true test of the Iraqi army. A 100,000-strong coalition brings together Iraqi security forces, Kurdish Peshmerga fighters, and several paramilitary groups representing religious minorities, including Shia and Christian Iraqis. It's an extraordinary union between factions that have long stood on opposing sides in Iraq's history. And I, for one, would like to see this be the first of many joint times when they can stand. The fighting forces are currently pushing toward the town more quickly than we thought, and certainly than we had established in our planned campaign, Abadi said. Our road forward is a long one. We need to continue to work to destroy terrorism and put an end to this kind of destruction. As reports emerge of people remaining trapped in Mosul and others being dragged into abandoned towns as human shield, there is growing concern of a bloody toll on civilians as coalition forces bombard targets in support of ground forces. Abadi said he has instructed the military to open on all fronts to open corridors to citizens and what they call IDPs, internally displaced people, and to all people who want to flee the fighting. Peshmerga, i.e. our friends the Kurds, said its offensive on 3 fronts would capitalize on gains made by Kurdish and Iraqi forces. In recent days, according to a news release from the Peshmerga General Command, the objectives are to clear a number of nearby villages and secure control of strategic areas to further restrict Daesh's movements. Iraqi forces and Christian paramilitary groups surrounded another Christian town, Hamidiyah, also known as Korosh, and they are still battling ISIS fighters there who have put up fierce resistance. Militant targets were also bombarded by the coalition forces. Coalition members vastly outnumber their opponents. There are approximately 5,000 to 6,000 Daesh fighters in Mosul, and that's according to a U.S. military official. Terror group supporters put the number around 7,000. Peshmerga forces have discovered several ISIS tunnels, part of the group's elaborate defenses. In some, dishes of food were still warm, showing how close forces are coming to fighters before they flee. Alright, I got one more audio clip. I think you're getting the hint. The battle for Mosul is on. And I have to say, they're doing a good job. I gotta say it. I always give credit where credit is due. Alright, we've got one last audio clip.
And to the first American killed in Iraq in this urgent effort to take out ISIS. Americans are backing up the Iraqis right now, and this evening, look at this. A missile taking aim at a car driven by an ISIS suicide bomber. That car destroyed just one of several missiles, and you're about to see them all. ABC's Alex Marquardt on the front lines again tonight.
An ISIS suicide bomber speeding towards advancing forces today. Rocket finally taking it out. Then that second car bomb, the U.S.-backed Kurdish forces making the direct hit. Suicide bombers have been the go-to tactic of ISIS, dozens deployed. And tonight, possibly a new weapon. Drones, some armed with explosives. Kurdish forces spraying the sky and bringing one of them down. Today saw some of the fiercest fighting yet. U.S. soldiers assisting from the air and advising on the ground. Tonight mourning one of their own, that American service member killed by an IED. The commander of the U.S.-led coalition telling the BBC ISIS will likely use human shields.
They are a very resilient and challenging foe. They're very adaptable, very creative, cunning. We've seen all kinds of examples of that.
David, we're learning tonight that this battle is playing out online as well. Britain, which is part of the coalition, saying that cyber warfare is being used against ISIS for the first time in this campaign. David?
Our thanks to Alex Marquardt.
All right. While we're going to take that commercial break, and I'll be back on the other side with our friends Iran and North Korea and all those other regular features on this program. So we got to pay them bills. I will see you on the other side.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
You can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now, but I don't wanna.
All right, thank you for hanging in there with me over that commercial break. Gotta pay them bills. You know I gotta. All right, we are moving on. Moving on. Moving on. North Korea's at it again. We all went to bed tired and our heads filled with political mumbo-jumbo and conversation after the last presidential debate, only to wake up this morning and find out North Korea tried to launch a second missile in a week. The Mosul launch fail. Alright, I got an audio clip. Now, of course, the standard people had their standard reactions. Yes, of course they did. The Japanese condemned it, the South Koreans condemned it, the U.S. condemned it, and of course the UN Security Council condemned it as well. Alright, so let's take a listen to the latest audio clip.
Tonight, tensions between Kim Jong-un and his enemies are ramping up. Intelligence agencies from Seoul to Washington watching to see if North Korea's combustible ruler is preparing for a provocation sometime around America's election. Tonight, the monitoring group 38 North has new satellite pictures of the Sohae satellite launching station in North Korea, pictures which indicate something could be brewing.
What we're seeing now is activity near here. We see crates on the launch pad, and we see activity here near the fuel oxidizer bunker. There are some vehicles out front. And so this could mean that the North is getting ready to launch a rocket.
Sohae is a recently upgraded rocket station, the place where North Korea launched a satellite in February, and other rocket tests, and more.
The North Koreans are developing a larger space launch vehicle, which the technology in that vehicle could be used for an intercontinental ballistic missile.
Those are long-range missiles North Korea is believed to be developing, which could soon have the capability to strike the U.S. with a nuclear warhead. A U.S. intelligence official tells CNN Kim Jong-un could launch more missile tests in the coming weeks. Kim's aggression prompting the U.S. to make its own statement, these B-1 bombers over South Korea. And U.S. and South Korean forces are stepping up military drills like the ones seen here. Tonight, they're conducting anti-submarine drills together off the coast of South Korea, possibly in response to Kim's submarine-launched missile tests in August. Off Alaska, American and South Korean forces are simulating attacks on nuclear facilities. And recently, South Korea's defense minister said his country has elite troops on standby to assassinate Kim Jong-un if South Korea feels threatened by North Korea's nuclear weapons. But analysts say the North Koreans are better trained for that kind of mission.
They have not been operating in North Korea, as far as we know, for decades. And so they don't have the practical experience. The North Korean Special Operation Forces have operated in South Korea recently and are probably more capable than the South Korean counterparts.
North Korean special forces have launched several commando raids inside South Korea and made multiple attempts to assassinate South Korean presidents in years past.
And Kim's regime has responded to the South Korean threat to target Kim, saying that if that happens, North Korea is going to reduce the South Korean capital, Seoul, to ashes, and that they'll wipe the U.S. territory of Guam from the face of the earth.
All right, I almost could have written some of those statements. Come on, how many times have we heard? If you do anything to bother us, we're going to reduce Seoul to ashes. Come on, folks. I think we've all heard it. I know I have. I've read it more times than I've aired it to you guys. Now, let's talk about the launch infrastructure, the Sohae launch facility, continued infrastructure improvements. Like I said, my tongue's tied tonight, and you guys have no way of knowing this because you can't see me. But I'm having to sit at a slightly odd angle because I haven't completely reclaimed my desk. But that'll should, cross your fingers, all be fixed in time for tomorrow night's show because I'm getting a few more tweaks to my desk. Alright. There's a few small... This article is dated 17th of October. And it is showing comparisons. It's talking about comparisons from satellite imagery from October 8th to previous satellite imagery. All right? And I'm taking this from the website 38 North. Commercial satellite imagery from October 8th continues to show a low level of activity at around the launch pad and the vertical engine test stand at the Sohae satellite launching station. Given the absence of activity normally associated with an impending launch, such as the presence of cranes on the launch pad or the activity at VIP observation buildings, it seems unlikely that North Korea is planning a space launch in the near future. Instead, other activities around the Sohae facility suggest a focus on maintenance and infrastructure improvement. It remains unclear whether activity at the vertical engine test stand is related to an impending engine test or serves some other purpose. At the horizontal processing building, 3 small pieces of equipment or shipping crates have arrived during the past 10 days. No one knows what they are. At the rail station next to the horizontal processing building, 2 rail cars are present, immediately outside the cover area. These appear to be gondolas for moving large items or hoppers, likely for laying of rail ballast. Imagery from October 8th shows rail-mounted environmental shelter used to conduct final preparations on an engine before it is loaded by crane onto the test stand remains adjacent to the vertical engine stand. When not in use, it's normally protected further back on the concrete pad. Since no crane is visible in either the October 1st or October 8th imagery, the shelter's current position suggests several probabilities, including 1, a North Korea deception effort, 2, maintenance work, perhaps related to last month's test, or 3, preparations for a new engine test. It should also be noted that there is no activity taking place at the VIP observation building overlooking the stand, where Kim Jong-un observed the September test. Since September, 2 small instrumentation structures have been built on either side of the engine test stand. From their positioning, they appear to be for cameras to record details of engine tests, but other instruments could also be placed within them. For most of the past year, North Koreans have been raising structures in the support warehouse area in the valley northwest of the launch pad. In September, however, new construction began on 3 structures that appear to be small warehouses or shops. Given the enhanced security and new housing development noted below and in previous reports, this activity suggests long-term infrastructure development continues, which will allow the facility to be operated on a full-time basis with an increased number of personnel and residents. Short distance outside the launch facility's main gate, 6 new housing units have been erected since August, and at least 4 more are under construction. Since 2014, North Korea has slowly been adding housing units in and around the Sohae facility that are typical in size and style of those used to house mid-level military officers, technicians, and managers at facilities throughout North Korea. It seems reasonable to assume that these would be used in a similar manner, possibly for NADA and KPA scientists, engineers, technicians, and support personnel. During the past several months, 2 new structures have been built within the facility on the ridge just north of the launch pad. The larger of the 2 appears to be a barracks-style building, while the second may be for agricultural purposes. Alright, so that is the breakdown on what is going on at Sohae. And you know, I gotta say, North Korea's at it again, or my nickname for the North Korean leader, the lunatic to the north. Now, I must say that the Musudan missile appeared to fail immediately after launch. North Korea test-fired a missile that immediately failed after launch early on Thursday, the U.S. and South Korean militaries reported, after the 2 countries agreed to step up efforts to counter the North Korean nuclear missile and nuclear threats. The missile was believed to be the intermediate-range Musudan and was launched from the western city of Kusang, where the isolated state attempted but failed to launch the same type of missile on Saturday. The launch came shortly after the United States and South Korea agreed in Washington to bolster military and diplomatic efforts to counter North's nuclear missile program. It is the 8th attempt in 7 months to launch the Musudan, or at least to launch a weapon with a design range of 3,000 kilometers or 1,800 miles that can be fired from road mobile launchers. Alright. And of course, North Korea is doing all this in defiance of UN sanctions and diplomatic pressure. I think we get it. North Korea is at it again. I don't know that we need to go any further, because unless their big brother China steps in and slaps them down, guess what? They're going to keep it up. Alright. Back to our proxy wars. We're going to need a few more scorecards here. I'll have to work on one for the siege of Mosul. And I may have to do one for Yemen at the rate this is going. Iran steps up weapon supply to Yemen's Houthis via Oman, Jordan. Oh yeah. Iran has stepped up weapons transfers to Houthis, the militia fighting the Saudi-backed government in Yemen. U.S., Western, and Iranian officials tell Reuters a development that threatens to prolong and intensify the 19-month-old war. The increased pace of transfers in recent months, which officials said include missiles and small arms, could exacerbate a security headache for the United States, which last week struck Houthi targets with cruise missiles in retaliation for failed missile attacks on a USS Navy destroyer. Reminder, they fired on the USS Mason. Not once, not twice, but at least 3 times. Much of the recent smuggling activity has been through Oman, which neighbors Yemen, including via overland routes that take advantage of porous borders between the 2 countries. That raises further quandary for Washington because Jordan is an ally. In fact, we have troops in Jordan. And the Oman a Jordanian government official is quoted saying, "We have been concerned about the recent flow of weapons from Iran into Yemen and conveyed those concerns to those who maintain relations with the Houthis." Oman denies any weapon smuggling across its border, and its officials could not be reached for comment. The Omanis are not actively involved with transfers, but rather turning a blind eye and failing to crack down. An interview with a Saudi newspaper last week, Oman Foreign Minister Youssef bin Awai said there is no truth to this, no weapons have crossed our border, and we're ready to clarify suspicions if they arise. The Iran-allied Houthis gained a trove of weapons when whole divisions allied to the former Yemen President Ali Abdullah Saleh sided with them at the start of the war last year. But when Saudi Arabia and Yemen's exiled government said they also received substantial amounts of weapons and ammunition from Iran, Tehran views the Houthis as the legitimate authority in Yemen, but denies it supplies them with weapons. Alright, we got proxy war coming. Another one. Because, if you can recall, Iran doesn't like us. Saudi is one of our allies. I mean, really, folks? How do you put it any other way than a proxy war? I have no clue. So, if we're supplying the Saudis and the Iranians are supplying the Houthis, is that not the definition of a proxy war? A Western diplomat familiar with the conflict said, "We are aware of a recent increased frequency of weapon shipments supplied by Iran which are reaching the Houthis via the Omani border." One of those officials who is familiar with Yemen said that in the past few months there has been a noticeable increase in weapons smuggling activity. What they're bringing in via Oman are anti-ship missiles, explosives, money, and personnel. Another regional security source said the transfers included surface-to-surface, short-range missiles, and small arms. A senior Iranian diplomat confirmed there had been a sharp surge in Iran's help to the Houthis in Yemen since May, referring to weapons, training, and money. The nuclear deal gave Iran an upper hand in its rivalry with Saudi Arabia, but it needs to be preserved, the diplomat said. Western Gulf allies had warned that U.S. President Barack Obama's rapprochement with Tehran through the landmark nuclear deal signed last year will embolden Iran in conflicts in Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and elsewhere. No kidding. Haven't I said that the nuclear deal, don't ask me to go into the whole title, that Iran nuclear deal isn't worth the paper it is printed on, folks. I promise you, it's not. The increase in transfers comes as the civil war drags on and threatens to pull the United States deeper into a conflict that has killed 10,000 people, and which pits two regional powers, Saudi Arabia and Iran, against each other. A brokered ceasefire that is supposed to last 72 hours went into effect on Wednesday. Since the beginning of the war, the Houthis have used short-range Scud missiles, and the United Nations says they have also used surface-to-air missiles improvised to operate as surface-to-surface rockets against Saudi Arabia. But a suspected Houthi missile attack against a UAE vessel in the strategic Red Sea shipping lane this month, as well as attempted strikes against a U.S. warship USS Mason, raised worries about the rebels' capability to launch bolder attacks. The Houthis have denied attacking the USS Mason. Alright, of course, they're going to deny it. You really want to attack someone like the U.S.? I mean, come on. Our military always has the right to defend itself. It may not have the right to start something, but it's got the right to end it. All right. Iran's foreign minister lobbied for Egypt, the region's most populous Sunni Arab country, to attend talks in Lausanne. Yes, the Iranian foreign minister personally requested that Egypt attend last week's key Syria talks, a move that has sparked concerns that Cairo is being wooed away from its traditional pro-Western stance in the region. Talks convened by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry in the Swiss city of Lausanne last Saturday evening failed to agree on a common strategy with Russia to end the conflict in Syria, now in its 6th year. There have been emails indicating that the Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif asked Kerry for Cairo's team to attend the Lausanne talks. When the U.S. Secretary of State proposed six-nation talks to see if a new reasonableness can manifest itself in Syria, Zarif replied, "Why not Egypt too?" Iran agreed to attend the talks only once it had secured places for the foreign ministers of Egypt and Iraq at the discussions. Both countries backed the pro-Assad stance of Iran, but Egypt is seen as significant because it is the most populous Sunni Arab nation in the Middle East. Iran was also keen to not be outnumbered by an anti-Assad coalition comprising Turkey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United States at the Lausanne talks. The lobbying for the Egyptian official to attend the talks began a few days before. Egypt shocked its financial backer Saudi Arabia by voting with the Russians to block a draft French UN Security Council resolution on Syria, which had demanded an end to airstrikes on Aleppo and military overflights. Reminder, the airstrikes on Aleppo are often bombing hospitals and other purely civilian targets. It was the first public dispute between Egypt and Saudi Arabia since Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi ousted the Muslim Brotherhood's Mohammed Morsi in 2013. Since then, Saudi Arabia has sent billions of dollars to Egypt, which have helped keep its faltering economy afloat. The rivalry between Saudi Arabia and Iran, in which both compete for the hearts and minds of the Arab street, sees them regularly seek to curb each other's influence and standing in the Middle East. In Egypt, one of the cultural hubs of the Arab world, and home to more than a quarter of its people, Tehran sees a counterweight to Saudi hostility in high-stakes diplomacy over the future shape of Syria. It is clear in the short term both sides are acting in a no-holds-barred diplomacy over the Syrian imbroglio. Alright, basically they're holding more talks about Syria. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. And nobody's really backing down. What can I say? Nobody wants to say, alright. I agree. Civilians are being harmed here. I'll take the high road. Alright. I am looking through my articles because I've got a good news story, at least in my mind it's a good news story that I want to bring up. And I thought I had one more article. Ah, yes, here it is. The Iranian Judiciary Chief Ayatollah Saeed Amoli Jenny lashed out at the U.S. government for the failure to honor its commitments under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, aka the Iran nuclear deal, a nuclear agreement between Tehran and 6 world countries. Addressing a meeting of high-ranking judiciary officials in Tehran on Monday, the Judiciary Chief said Washington is abdicating responsibility in honoring the deal. Commitments on the pretext is already fulfilled under its undertakings. There were fears in the course of nuclear negotiations that the U.S. could keep anti-Iran sanctions in place with new justifications. He noted, adding that the White House did exactly what the Iranian team of negotiators had explained as an unlikely scenario. Such a breach of the deal by the United States demonstrates the American politicians are deceitful, do not care about moral principles, and just think about their personal interest. In September, Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said he has never been optimistic about the U.S.'s genuine desire to honor its commitments, and that is why the country's diplomats discussed everything in detail during the nuclear negotiations with the group. Zarif explained that Iran entered nuclear negotiations on the basis of pessimism about the U.S., saying it was proved later that such distrust was not unreasonable. While many consider the Iran nuclear deal a major breakthrough in improving the ties between Iran and the West, leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid al-Khamenei, has made it clear that Tehran's policy towards the U.S. will remain unchanged, regardless of the nuclear deal. Like I said, that nuke deal ain't worth the paper it is printed on. Alright, my feel-good story. My feel-good story of the day. Jewish settlers invited Palestinians over for the holidays. Everything was better than expected. The gathering wasn't exactly unprecedented. Jewish settlers and their Palestinian neighbors have met quietly before, many times. But not like this. This meeting was rare. The settlement of Arafat is a bedroom community of 10,000 affluent Jews, including many Americans, a few miles south of Bethlehem in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. The residents of Arafat live the good life in a growing hilltop community that the United States considers illegal and an obstacle to peace. The Arafat mayor, Oded Revi, is also a colonel in the Israeli Army Reserves and has invited Palestinians from surrounding villages to come to his house and celebrate the Jewish holiday of Sukkot. It's also referred to as the Feast of Tabernacles, when faithful gather in palm-roofed huts, a remembrance of the 40 years of wandering in the land in the desert in the time of Moses. A couple dozen Palestinians accepted the mayor's invitation this week to share brownies, grapes, cookies, apples, coffee, alongside 30 Israeli settlers. This was a first. The idea? The sides were here to talk, even to bond, no matter if the dynamic was a little awkward and asymmetrical. Everyone talked about peace. Nobody really talked about one state or two states. They didn't mention Prime Ministers Benjamin Netanyahu or Palestinian Authority President Mohammed Abbas. Some Palestinian guests felt comfortable enough to complain out loud about how they are treated. Some Israelis mentioned the wave of Palestinian stabbing attacks against them. There were some remarkable moments. Ahmad Musa, a 58-year-old contractor from neighboring Palestine villager, said, "We consider ourselves part of the family, part of the people of Arafat. You do not hear that much in the West Bank, at least not in public, with smartphone cameras rolling." He said 70% of our village works in Arafat. They treat us very well, and we are very good to them too. Norman Othman, a 41 construction worker from Wad al-Nis, said this was his first time as a guest in a home in the settlement, although he had worked here before for years building houses. "This is good," he said. "Our relationship is evolving." Asked whether he bore any grudge against the expansion Jewish settlements in the West Bank, now home to 400,000 settlers, which Obama administration has condemned as an obstacle to peace, Othman said, "Nope, he didn't have any problem with Arafat. If there was a Palestinian state someday, a dream Palestine say is growing more distant, Othman said the Jews in Arafat should stay on their land. He saw it this way. These are their houses. They bought them with their own money. We should have no problem living together if there is peace." Why can't we have more people like this in the world? He reminded his host that there is a locked yellow gate that blocks the entrance to his village, a closure enforced by Israeli security forces. And it controls the entrance to Arafat. Like I said, why can't we have more reasonable people in this world? Why can't they just sit down, have a beer, have a cup of coffee, whatever, and not want to kill each other? This is proof. All right. On that note, folks, you know what's coming. If you're a regular listener, you know I'm out of here!